Yo, 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 what is good, everybody? It's your boy JCG. Welcome back to the lounge. So, we just had a brand new series drop on Netflix not too long ago. It is the new live action remake of Avatar The Last Airbender. Now, I didn't talk about this series much. I made like one short of it. It's still up on my YouTube channel. You can go watch it. I was basically giving my thoughts on the trailer that came out back in January. But now that the series is out and I had a chance to watch all 8 episodes, I want to give my thoughts on it. So, yeah, let's just not. Well, first, before I actually get into my review, I want to say this first. As you can see by the shirt, I would consider myself a mild ATLA fan. Like I'm a mild fan of Avatar: Last Airbender. Not like a super mega fan because, while I will admit I did watch the show, a little bit of the show back then when I was much younger. It's been. I wasn't that too deep into it because there were a lot of other cartoons, a lot of other kid shows that I was watching at the time. And Avatar was just something that I would occasionally look at every now and then. But I do have a really good appreciation for the series. I like the characters, I like the lore, the world building and stuff like that. I like that it's basically like, it's a lot of it is martial arts centered, and talking about like bending different elements and stuff like that, literally controlling different elements. Yeah, all that stuff is really cool, and it's like up my alley. But yeah, I haven't seen the series in a long time, and I said to myself before I watch the live action version, I want to rewatch the original cartoon, at least the first season, to with familiarize myself with it before I get into the new one. So that's essentially what I did. I rewatched the first season, book one, Water, of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is also on Netflix. And yeah, I gotta say, it still holds up to this day. You know, um, I forgot how good the cartoon was. It very, it very much is like a cartoon that's fun for both kids and adults. Like when you're a kid, you kind of don't understand the deeper themes of it, but then as you grow older, you start to realize, hey, this show is more deep than you think. But yeah, now that we got that out of the way, let's actually talk about the new live action series. So, for a little bit of context, a lot of people, myself included, were a little bit nervous. I'm sorry, not a little bit, very nervous when we heard that Netflix was basically doing what they started doing a while back and adapting anime or animated shows. You know, it started with like, what did it start with? Like Death Note, which I heard was terrible. Just a truly garbage adaptation of the anime. And then, and then they decided to adapt Cowboy Bebop, a very beloved anime that they then Netflix themselves ruined with their live action remake. And granted, the series was, I think the Avatar remake was announced all the way back in 2019, long before the Cowboy Bebop reboot came out. And still, people were nervous because we've been burned by Hollywood before with not just how they handle Avatar: The Last Airbender, but how they handle live action adaptations of animated shows in general, because we know that most of the time it isn't a good track record with how Hollywood goes about trying to bring these IPs to the live action front, especially with Avatar, because I hate to remind people of it, but that M. Night Shyamalan movie from 2010, yeah, that was a mistake. That was truly a mistake. Easily the worst example of bringing a beloved animated series into live action. Mostly bad acting with just the way how they handled the story. It was just not good at all. That movie was very much maligned, and yeah, it was truly. There's not much to say about it. It was just they couldn't even get the main character's name right. It was just awful, man. But now Netflix decided to try again, and here we are. We have this new live action series, which honestly, I'm just gonna say it. It isn't bad. It's actually not that bad at all. Now, is it good? Well, that's debatable. I wouldn't say it's great by any means. It's not like it's a fantastic series that does justice to the original source material. It's not. But it's not a bad attempt at trying to recreate the story of Avatar. Granted, there are some things that could have been done better, but that's what we're going to discuss here. I don't want this to be too long of a video. I mostly just want to talk about, how they handled the characters and where they went about with the story overall. Because, I rewatched season 1 just to get an understanding, because the new shows the new show is basically, at least the first season, is based on book 1 Water. So yeah, I just want to get an understanding of what I'm going to be getting into. Basically, what I can say is it has some really cool and good moments where they translate the animated version to live action really well. And then there are some moments where you kind of realize, whether it just be exposition dumping or just changing episode arcs all around. It kind of feels like they're taking some liberties with the original cartoon, just making some changes here and there. And some of these are okay, some of these are pretty bad, I will admit. Ultimately, though, what I can say for season 1 is it was a decent attempt, but I think my biggest problem with season 1 is that there were some headlines, there were some articles coming out that are saying that the showrunners wanted to appeal more to Game of Thrones fans, and I think that was a mistake. That don't get me wrong, before Game of Thrones got worse within the later seasons, that series was very much beloved by a lot of people, and it had a big fan base, and because of, I guess, the tone of that series. But Avatar is not Game of Thrones. It's not. It's not that dark. It's not that, explicit. It's just not that sort of tone. It's not that sort of ultra mature adult tone that I think the showrunners of this series wanted to go for. And I think trying to have that sort of mindset for something like The Last Airbender, it just, you kind of see why some fans will get turned off by that. Now, I will say this, the original series, the original cartoon, it was like this really good blend of seriousness and comedy. There were some moments, though, where the goofiness of it kind of just felt like it was too much. But here in this version, the live action version, you can kind of tell that all the fun, the more goofy aspects of it, they were either done very little, it was just portions of them, or it was just removed altogether. And I think that's the biggest flaw with this series, is that, it tries it basically it forgets that the series is still supposed to be like very fun. It's supposed to be like this adventure that you go on. This lighthearted, just um, just joyful adventure experience that we have with the main cast of characters. Let me get into the actual cast of characters here. Um, let's start off with the main three: Aang, Katara, and Sokka. I would say, we're gonna get into what I think of some of the actors and their portrayals, and like some of my less fond ones in a minute. But I think for like the main three, you did pretty good with them. I can't pronounce her name correctly, but the girl who plays Katara, she does really good, I would say. Granted, they did kind of change some aspects of Katara's story around, so like some of her arcs, like especially when you get into like the later episodes, like episodes 7 and 8. When, by the way, there's pretty much gonna be spoilers in this, so you've been warned. Um, when we get into like episode 7 and 8, when they get to what was it, the North Water Tribe, the North Kingdom, and they meet up with Master Paku, and the whole like if you remember what happened in season 1, it's the whole like women are in this part of the Water Nation. They aren't they aren't allowed to be fighters. Women weren't allowed to be fighters in the Northern Water Tribe. I mean, they kind of did okay with that arc in this version, but it feels a little bit underwhelming compared to the animated version, especially with how Katara. Sorry about that. That was my phone. Especially with how Katara went about like confronting Master Paku about women not being allowed to do combat. But we'll get into more of that a little bit later. Ian Owsley as Sokka. I would say that's a perfect casting choice. I think Ian's portrayal of the character, granted, aside from like the whole thing about them removing his sexism arc, and like the other parts of his character, the more goofy parts of his character, I think his portrayal of Sokka was all right. He's still that he's that hothead. Well, not hothead. I'm sorry. Um, he's still that you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Hard-headed. Yeah, he's still that hard-headed older brother who wants to be in charge because his dad kind of put that on him, and he's kind of controlling of his sister in a little bit. But Ian Owsley, his portrayal of the character is just like it just like, not only does he look like Sokka, but you can kind of get this feeling. It's like, okay, yeah, he does bring that charm and that just that fun nature to the character. Gordon Cormier, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Gordon as Aang, I think that's probably the best they're gonna do with the literal lead character of the show. I think that's the best casting they're gonna do, because Gordon to me just screams Aang. Like, he looks like Aang. He has like that innocence about him that Aang in the cartoon had. And on top of that, the costume, I'm just gonna say this right away, the costume department did terrific here. Like, I actually really do like the suits that they did. Granted, some of them can actually be a bit too clean, especially in like certain areas, but the way they did Aang's costume, just spot on, terrific. And Gordon, he pretty much, for the most part, I would say nail Aang as a character. I think there are some things that from the cartoon that unfortunately they kind of removed, like the more like kiddie aspects of him, like him kind of goofing around playing and stuff. But that doesn't change the fact that I think Gordon did the best with what he was given in this role. So yeah, I would say the main three are pretty much done. They're done okay. I would say they're done pretty good. And now we move on to the the supporting cast. I wouldn't. Let's just talk about Zuko real quick. I wouldn't exactly call him a supporting character because he is pretty much prominent throughout the entirety of the show. He is one of this season's main villains after all. But Dallas Liu, I gotta say, I love this dude. Like Dallas Liu as Zuko, perfect casting choice. All right, that was that the way he portrayed Zuko. I think he did very well, very terrific in terms of like bringing just that anger, that ferocity, and especially his relationship with Uncle Iroh. Again, sorry for my phone. If you heard that was just my phone giving me a message. Just that just that whole determination to capture the avatar that Zuko had in the cartoon, I think was almost perfectly brought to life by Dallas Liu in this series. He is just great casting all around. Zuko is easily my favorite character in the show, and I think Dallas Liu did a really, really good job bringing him to life here. And like I already mentioned, his relationship with Uncle Iroh, I think that's something that both the live action version and the cartoon did really well. Just like, in the cartoon, Zuko was a bit more, just acted just a tiny bit more harshly towards his uncle. In the live action version, Zuko and Iroh kind of had like a more tight relationship. Like they weren't as argumentative with each other. There was still that tension there, but I just love that Zuko always had a close bond with his uncle, because his father pretty much treated him like dog crap, and his sister obviously didn't care enough for him. So the relationship between Iroh and Zuko in this series, I think, was a really good aspect. Any other characters that I want to mention? Fire Lord Ozai, since we're still going to talk about the Fire Nation. Ozai was, pretty cool, I would say. Daniel Day Kim did the best he could. I still have to watch seasons 2 and 3 of the animated version, so I need to know a little bit more about Ozai's character and how he is in that series. But from what I saw in this show, Ozai is just like, he's how I expected. He's that intense, harsh, cold, evil father that, kind of favors one child over the other. And, Daniel Day Kim did pretty good with him, I would say. But now, we're going to talk about a couple characters, or a few characters, I should say, that I wasn't the biggest fan of in the show. And one of them would have to be Azula, portrayed by, what was her name? Lizzie Yu, that's the actress, I believe. Now, no disrespect to Lizzie herself. I think she's a fine actress in her own right. And she did all right with the material she was given here. But it was kind of weird because in season 1 of the cartoon, Azula wasn't seen. I'm sorry, scratch that. Azula was like maybe mentioned, but she wasn't seen until the final episode, the finale of season 1, where Ozai pretty much tells her, hey, your brother failed. Your turn, go hunt the Avatar. and she pretty much is going to become prominent throughout season 2 as like a reoccurring villain, which obviously that's what the first season of the live action series is trying to set up here. My problem with Azula is not so much how her character was in the show, because I think her character is, it's fine. Not great, but I guess, again, I probably am going to watch season 2 later on, but to understand how Azula is in that series. But I think I'm going to say it like this. Again, no disrespect towards Lizzie Yu, but I feel like this is one of those casting choices where the actress was pretty much miscast in a role like this. And, I don't know why. When I saw her performance, a part of me just felt like, I guess this is decent, but I don't know. I just don't see her as a convincing Azula. I could be wrong, and if they decide to greenlight a season 2 for this, which I feel like maybe they will, they're probably already planning that. But if they decide to do a season 2, then I hope Lizzie herself can step it up a bit, because I don't know, I just always thought like this is a weird choice to play this character. And then 2 other characters who I was not a big fan of was coincidentally enough, 2 characters who also don't show up until don't show up until season 2 of the animated version. Ty Lee and May, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but they're basically like Azula's friends, and they did nothing. Like, they literally did absolutely nothing in this show. all you see them do is pretty much hype up Azula, telling her how amazing she is, how perfect she is, and that her dad just doesn't see it yet. And it's like, is that all you two are? It's like, you two don't really add anything to the plot. It's like you're filler characters. You're just there to be there. Like, the writers just kind of put you there because they kind of want to throw you in because if this does get a season 2, then they kind of want to set you up as well. Like, Azula's already been set up as the main season 2 antagonist, but you guys are just thrown in here kind of just like to let the audience know, especially like the longtime fans of this series know, like, hey, these characters also exist. They're friends with Azula, so here you go. But yeah, they just did nothing in this first season. Yeah, I think their inclusion was pretty pointless for the most part. Suki, I actually just looked up the actress who plays Suki in this show. I think it was Maria Zhang. Beautiful girl, by the way. Suki, and basically, what was it? The Kyoshi Warriors. I actually did like that episode, and I would say that was a pretty good portrayal of those characters too, and the actual way they handled that story arc, it was okay. It was really cool though that they had Avatar Kyoshi pretty much like Aang took her form, and she just came in and, just pounced all the Fire Nation. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for like the actual character side. I guess if I'm gonna mention any other characters, Admiral Zhao, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, Admiral Zhao. I would say he was another really good portrayal. Don't know the actor's name, but he did really well with he pretty much stole a lot of the scenes that he was in. So yeah, that was really good. So real quick, because I feel like this video is already long enough, now we're gonna get into like the aspects of like how they handled, I guess, certain plot lines and stuff. one of the criticisms that some YouTubers are throwing at this series is that it feels very rushed. And you know what? I agree. I think that, for an 8 episode series, an 8 episode season, especially since they're adapting a cartoon that had 20 episodes in its first season alone, you can tell that, yeah, this does feel rushed. This does feel like they kind of just wanted to. They had all these ideas of how they want to go about like the different story arcs and stuff, but because of the fact that Netflix only gave them 8 episodes to work with, they had to cram all these ideas together into these tight 8 hour long episodes. Well, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. These 8 episodes that were an hour long. But I think some of these storylines they actually did pretty well with, and others I think they kind of either missed the mark or just didn't do well enough. Like, I would say my favorite episode in this season was episode 6, where the whole goal of that episode was Aang trying to save his friends from Ko, that monster in the spirit world. And that episode was also like where he got captured and Zuko had to disguise himself as the Blue Spirit and save him from that Fire Nation prison. And I think that arc was handled really well. I think they did that really nicely in the show. Especially with like that scene where Zuko and Aang were talking with each other. But then you got episodes 3 and 4, which basically both of those are centered in Omashu. And they basically took like 3 arcs from 3 different episodes in the first season of the animated series and cram them all into 2 episodes. Like you got the arc where Katara meets Jet. You got you got the Sai and his son Theo, the mechanist from I forgot what episode that was specifically, but you got them thrown in here too. And you also got the episode where Aang reunites with Bumi, his childhood friend. Bumi, who is now an old man and the king of Omashu. And I think the problem is that these arcs don't feel fully realized like how they were in the animated version, because some aspects were pretty much removed altogether or just like changed in a way that where it's kind of similar but at the same time it's not. Like the whole Bumi and Aang arc is basically Bumi kind of had Aang go through all these challenges to basically like test him to see if he can get Aang to remember who he was. But here, Bumi's portrayal was, instead of like being a bit more like, I would say, just playful towards Aang, he kind of had this bitterness to. Bumi had this bitterness to him where he was just very upset with Aang and the fact that he pretty much left, that he pretty much abandoned the world when it needed the Avatar. And from what I've heard from watching some videos, there were actually some episodes in this season that actually took plot points from episodes that came from, I think, seasons 2 and 3. So yeah, that's something else that I didn't realize. But yeah, I think like the way they handled certain story arcs is kind of mid and definitely does weigh down the series a bit. Overall, what did I ultimately think of the series? This video has already gone on long enough, so I'm gonna do the conclusion here. What did I overall think of it? It was it was a decent adaptation. It was okay, not awful, not amazing. Obviously the more hardcore fans be are gonna be mad about this because they don't think that this is something that can ever be done good in live action. Me personally, I think that Netflix, you tried, and what we have is okay, but there is much room for improvement here. Like, if you do greenlight a season 2, I think that there's a lot of opportunities to learn from the mistakes of season 1 and do better the next time around. Because, Avatar is something, it's an IP that has such a dedicated fan base, and these are people who want to see this franchise, this series done justice, both in animation and in live action too. Um, you know, I would say Netflix, if you're gonna do a season 2, don't just do 8 episodes, do like 12 or 13, because you're probably gonna need that many due to the fact that the animated series had more episodes due to how many story arcs were going on. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on live action Avatar from Netflix. It's like, if I had to rate it out of 10, I would say a 6. Actually, I forgot to mention something, because this actually does weigh down my rating a bit. Season 1, like I said, it's based on the season 1 of the anime show, which is called Book 1, Water. But here's the funny thing. Aang does no water bending throughout this entire season. He does no water bending at all. That's so weird. It's like, you base it off of Book 1, which is literally called Water, and you don't have your main character truly bend water, like learn how to bend water, until the finale, where he turns into his soul is being overtaken by the water spirit, and he literally unleashes hell upon the Fire Nation. But yeah, that was such a weird decision. Like I said, overall rating, I would say, has to be like a 6 out of 10, or maybe a 5, maybe a 5.9, like a little bit average. I don't want to say. I mean, like, in my opinion, a 5 rating is like kind of like mediocre, but I think this show is not like mediocre. It's just like, it's just fine. But like I said, there's room for improvement, and I hope Netflix learns the lessons from this first season, and they can just basically just make it even better and please the fans more in any future seasons that they decide to do. But with that being said, my friends, this has been my review for Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It took me a while to actually like watch the series and get working on this video, because I wanted to give just my own deep personal thoughts on it, as well as figure out how I'm gonna go about just talking about comparing and contrasting both the animated version and this version. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and tell me your thoughts below. What if you're a longtime fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender? What was your opinions on this? Did you hate this show? Did you like it? Did you even watch it at all? Do you think that Netflix will greenlight a season two? I personally think they will because this show has a lot of eyes on it right now. A lot of people are watching it, so there's a possibility we're going to see a season two in the future. But yeah, tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you think of it, and let me know, like, what was your fondest memories of the animated series when you were younger. And yeah, with that being said, this has been your boy JCG. I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get some sleep and also just get ready for the next video that I have coming out either this week or next week. But until then, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe to join the lounge, and I will see you next time. Until then, God bless. I'm out. Deuces. Hey, editing JCG here. You know, it's funny, I was talking about in this video how Netflix could most likely renew this series for 2 more seasons. And lo and behold, we just got this news today. Netflix confirmed it that, yeah, seasons 2 and 3, basically adapting book 2 and book 3 from the animated series, they're going to do that in live action as well. So, yeah, seasons 2 and 3 are officially a go. And we're going to see how they take those seasons. Hopefully, like I said, they can improve upon the mistakes in the first season, and we just go we just continue to go up from there. But yeah, that's good news. All right, I'm out. Deuces.